So let's carry on quickly. So in order for us to answer the question, how much is enough, we need to know what our obligations are, necessities and wants are. And a projection in the short term, perhaps over a period of a year, the world calls this concept a budget. But this word strikes fear in many people's hearts and is seen as a restrictive tool which controls their lives. And the reality is that it's a tool, and I love what they say here, to measure our travel through time with money. And you need to go sit and think a little bit about what this guy is actually saying over here, to measure our travel through time with money. It's a tool that we can use money to make money serve us. And I'm going to read you guys a little story that I read in a business book. And because there's a whole thing about traveling through time with money. If you think about traveling, you're always on your way to somewhere and you're always coming from somewhere. So that is the concept that I want to bring past or run past you guys to understand the concept of budgeting better. So the book's name is called Fewer, Bigger, Bolder. The one day I just picked this book up for a bargain. I think it was here by Wordsworth Books. And as I was reading maybe about a week ago, I came across this part. So it's just like about a page that I'm going to read you guys. And the whole thing is about measurements. He talks about metrics in business. So he says that assume that you are driving a Toyota Prius. So remember, those are those little electric cars now. On a 1,000-mile round trip. On the way out, you test to see how many miles you can squeeze out of your fuel-efficient car. You keep your eyes fixed on the fuel consumption indicator to see how many miles per gallon the car is getting. To improve the results, you anticipate your stops, avoid extreme acceleration, and drive no more than 55 miles per hour. By the end of the first leg, you achieve a great mileage of 50 miles per gallon, but your trip took 10 hours. On the way back, you need to return fast. You keep your eyes fixed on your GPS display to see how many miles you have to go and when you are expected to arrive. You drive as fast as you can without getting speeding tickets. You end up making the return trip in less than 7 hours, but you only get 40 miles per gallon. So that is the whole story. And then this author of the book takes 3 principles out of this that I want to read to you quickly. So the analogy contains several lessons about measuring progress. The first thing is that what you measure will depend on what you want to manage. So if you measure your mileage, that is the thing that you want to manage, for instance, your fuel consumption. If your goal is to use gas efficiently, you will measure gas consumption and try to optimize mileage. Similarly, if the company's growth goals are to emphasize revenue growth, the leadership metrics will only focus on the top line, market share and revenues. On the other hand, if the goal is to drive the bottom line, the metrics will focus on cost reduction, productivity, and operational efficiency. So it's just the thing with what you're busy measuring as you're busy driving down the road. You're obviously looking at the fuel consumption. The second lesson is that metrics need to be balanced. They can be backward-looking, what we call rear-view mirror metrics, or it can be forward-looking, which they call windshield metrics. And then the third thing that they just talk about is that you need to isolate the best few things that tell you what you need to know. So I think where I want to bring this into the story, just the important thing, I actually wanted to ask that other guy that we've got in the church. I don't know who of you've seen that little electric car. Yeah, so that little chap drives with this little 2-seater electric car. It's just about this wide, and I think the maximum speed that it can reach is like 55 kilometers per hour, but it's battery operated, so the slower he drives, the further he can drive with the car, but as soon as he nails it a bit, then he can just drive just back home and then the electricity is finished. So that is a very similar analogy when it comes to budgeting. So we talked about the story of the car. So for us, to close the circle, we need to answer the question of how much is enough. We have to answer it in writing. So I'm going to read you guys a quick story, which is out of the book of the original author of the course that we're doing tonight. And so it's a bit of a long story, so just bear with me. So there's 2 parts. So you need to try and identify which part of the story is backward-looking and which part of the story is forward-looking, because that's really important when you start looking at budgets. So now we come to the practical details of creating a closed circle or budget. We must answer the question in writing, how much is enough? In order to understand the progress, let me, Earl, tell you the story of a friend of mine. In the early 70s, my wife Dorothy and I were moved by IBM Corporation to Lexington, Kentucky. I met a man who over the years had battled with his weight. He had a large bone structure and could carry 190 pounds well. Over the time we were there, his weight had crept up to over 320 pounds. He had been in this situation before and had tried various weight reduction methods with limited success. One day my friend noticed an ad in the newspaper requesting people with a weight problem to participate in a university study done on obesity. Participants were promised that this program would result in weight loss. Although skeptical, he decided to try one more program. On the first night session, with 23 other participants, commenced with each person being given a little black book. The purpose of this book was to keep a record of everything that went into his mouth as food and drink, and also record the reason why he ate or drank them. My friend faithfully recorded all week in his book. Towards the end of the week, he noticed some reasons were rather lame, or he had no reasons at all. The following Monday night, he and all of the rest of the participants read out loud from their books. My friend found that he was in good company, as most of the others also had run out of reasons. The professor then collected the books and handed out yellow plastic plates and yellow cups with the following instructions. Number 1, the participants could eat whatever their regular menus called for and could have a second helpings if they wished. Number 2, however, everything they ate or drank had to be eaten from a yellow plate and drunk from a yellow cup. Number 3, the plate must be on a table with a place setting and proper utensils. Number 4, they were not allowed to watch TV or read a paper while eating if they were alone. My friend thought to himself, what kind of a program is this? How could anyone lose weight by continuing to eat whatever he wants? However, he persisted and followed the rules of the program, whereas at night, when he was normally sat in front of the TV and munched out of a bag of various types of junk food, he now had to place his selection on a plate and eat it on the table without watching the TV. At midnight, when he usually raided the refrigerator, standing at the counter with a fridge light illuminating his hands full of various foodstuffs, he would now have to set a place setting and put the food on the yellow plate on the table. After a week, he realized that this procedure was unpleasant, or as he called it, simply a pain in the neck. However, he persevered, and in a weekly reporting times with his group, he found something started happening. He was losing weight. This procedure had caused him to cut out all unplanned eating. It's simply too much trouble to raid the refrigerator at night, and to snacking in front of the TV had stopped. It was too much trouble to set up a place setting for other than regular meals. His weight started to drop at a rate of 5 to 7 pounds a week. Over the months, as he continued, he brought his weight down to 190 pounds using a yellow plate and a cup. I have never forgotten the story, and I immediately saw application in the area of our finances. A budget can be like the yellow plate and cup to our spending. It can eliminate all unplanned spending. So I think that is the crux of the story, is we need to try and stop unplanned spending. I think that is what we need to get at. And if you think about the analogy again of the car, where we're looking in the back window to see where we come from, and we're looking at the front window to try and see where we're going. The little black book that he was talking about is the similar thing. We're looking in the back window to see what you've done in the past, where the front window, this little yellow plate that he was talking about, is looking forward to try and figure out where you're going when it comes to finances.